flat Earth and geocentrism.
There's also a dumbass called Gem Panda who puts out some really good stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've done it. I've done a few. Flat Earth Math. I think he's got some good stuff.
Who's Jim Panda?
So
Some pompous sounding old guy.
Good evening there, Frost Knight. How are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So we're having a discussion on the shape of the Earth. I believe you believe it's a globe spinning?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, so we can get into that. We can get into that discussion. Now, for any shape of the Earth or any discussion, we need a foundation. Now, for the globe, you would need a strong foundation, a starting point. Otherwise, you can't really continue from that point forward because it would just crumble from there. Now, flat Earth doesn't have a complete house, but it has a very strong foundation, a foundation that is very difficult to shift, difficult to move, very difficult to debunk. So, if I were to ask you for the globe's foundation, for example, where is the globe's foundation? What is the foundation that makes you believe that we live on a spinning ball?
All right, so the foundational belief for the globe, let's see here.
Fallacies.
Hold on. Let him take his time. Let him think about this. Because for any argument, we need that strong foundation. So go for it, Frost Knight. Take your time.
How come?
I mean, it's kind of a lot of different.
I get yelled at, but if Chemo comes in the room and takes over, he doesn't get yelled.
The chemo's fun to listen to.
I'll say it's a lot of different corroborating evidence rather than any one particular thing. Can't really take a rocket up and look for ourselves.
Of course. I mean, you have a body of evidence, so you say. We have very few bits of evidence, but those few bits of evidence that we have are very, very strong.
Really?
Which takes us forward in the understanding that the Earth is not a globe. So,
which ones?
For example, a globe. What do you have as your base? The base. Where's the starting point to say, yeah, this is why we can begin talking about the Earth being a globe?
What I don't grant them is the fact that I don't grant them that satellites don't exist.
Is your name Frost Knight foolish?
We don't have photographs from space.
Foolish. I understand your opinion. I haven't spoken to Frost Knight before. I would appreciate if you allow Frost Knight to give his response to the question to
say that it is.
All right. So how about this? You can circumnavigate the northern and the southern hemispheres in a plane at the same time on either hemisphere.
The foundation is you can fly, circumnavigate the globe. Is that the basis?
So the northern and the southern hemisphere in a plane, you can circumnavigate the same time. It takes the same time to circumnavigate each.
Bit of an echo in here. Is that Is that me? Is that you? Is that someone else?
I might be.
I think it's Druss. Druss, I think you've got an echo going on. You just check your mic. That's
I don't hear this echo to which you speak.
It's God. Okay, that's good. So, Frost Knight, so just to repeat so I just get it clear, you're saying north to south or east to west navigation?
Obviously, there are jet streams that will slightly increase or decrease that depending on which direction you're going. But for the most part, it's about the same. You can go from Sydney to Santiago in about 14 hours in a plane.
Okay. So you can go from one place to another. This is the basis for a globe.
I would say that's probably the strongest evidence that's accessible to the most people.
Okay, so how would we demonstrate this claim of yours?
Well, there are two airlines, Qantas and LATAM. They both operate in the hemisphere doing one-way trips between South Africa, Australia, and South America. And so non-stop flights, and you can take a 14-hour flight from Santiago to Sydney or vice versa in about 14 hours, give or take. And that should be impossible on a flat Earth for many, many reasons. One, the time just doesn't add up based off of the radius or the circumference of the flat Earth, right? Also, there are no planes with enough fuel. Also, you're in a jet, a big fat jet that can't go faster than the speed of sound. It's not a supersonic aircraft, right? So it can only go a certain speed. So there's many reasons why you shouldn't be able to go from Santiago to Sydney nonstop in 14 hours on a flat Earth.
Okay, so I'm not disputing any of what you've just said. I'm just asking, can you have you done this? Can you verify your strongest foundational belief?
Spurs.
So
you've got
for you to believe the strongest evidence as well. You would obviously have done it yourself, Frost Knight, no?
Okay.
I haven't. I have seen videos of people who've taken the flight, and I strongly assume that if I were to book the flight, that it would be a valid flight, and I could get on the plane and take it. But anyone can take the flight if they choose, and maybe it's a bogus flight, but that would be kind of weird to have a bogus flight. A lot of people would be confused and like, why is the flight not real? That would be a huge red flag.
Yeah, are you implying it can't be done, Kimo?
Absolutely. Before we dismantle your claim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just also bear in mind that Hong Kong to Los Angeles is about the same distance from the equator north as Sydney to Santiago is south. And the flight times are within 30 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And 300 miles.
Yeah, I mean, of course they would be. That's what they would tell us. We're not denying what they tell us. We're disputing, has it been verified? So anyone can tell you anything. We can tell you this, we can tell you that. The idea is, has anyone actually verified what you're telling us, right? Frost Knight.
Thousands of people a week.
Frost.
People follow those flights.
Frost Knight.
I've seen several YouTube videos of people who've taken the flight. They've taken videos and getting on. I mean, could those videos be fake? Sure, but,
No. Whoa, don't go to the fakeness yet. Let's have a look at what you saw. Why would we jump to the fake world? You've seen it. You've verified it. Now, obviously, you're going to post what you've seen so we can verify your foundation, right?
Well, these particular videos aren't the strongest piece of evidence.
But they're not the strongest evidence now. This is not the foundation of your globe. I did ask you for your foundation, the strongest piece of evidence, so we can go forward from that. So we've just destroyed your foundation, Frost Knight. No?
This evidence implies that someone would be willing to go to the extreme of actually purchasing the flight themselves.
It's not my claim. I'm not asking you to do anything that you're not capable of, right? But if you're just going to make up wild stories about your foundation, well, is this your religious belief?
That's not exactly a wild story, is it, Kimo?
Well, that's what we're finding out right now. We're finding out if he's making up a wild story.
No, it's not a wild story. It's a common story.
We don't know that yet, do we? We're finding out right now.
Oh, yeah, I just posted a JPEG with all the routes for Qantas.
But of course, Anybody in
the wild story would be that it doesn't happen.
Go ahead, Frostnite.
If anybody in the world really wants to find out if the world is truly flat or round, they can save up a little bit of money, go to Australia, go to South America, and fly to the other end. Right? They can do that. It's
my mission. My mission is somewhat different to that. It's to find out if you, Frost Knight, knows if it's a globe or not. You see, because I already know that the Earth cannot be a globe because we need science, mathematics, measurements, all those types of things. Now
give us the science.
You, on the other hand, here, Frost Knight, are not aware of this. You think the Earth is a globe. So my mission is to find out how you know, what you know, how you know, when you knew it, and how all of us can also know the information that you know. Now, obviously, if it's a belief, it's just what you think is happening. I can't attack you for your religious belief because we can believe in anything we like, right?
Right. Well, so the degree of certainty that I have in this belief is as certain as the belief that Japan exists. Right. Sure. I haven't been to Japan. I've seen videos of Japan. It could be fake. It could be all a stage, and they're just pretending Japan exists. But I'm very certain, based off of a lot of evidence that I've accumulated, that it is real. And I don't think, you can't know most things to 100% degree of certainty.
Yeah, but we're not crazy people, are we? We're not like, oh, we don't believe that, we don't believe that. there has to be a certain level of trust, but it's only when it's a wild claim, something like Santa Claus or Godzilla or the Loch Ness Monster
Or
or
an
the Earth
airplane.
being a globe or
Airplane.
space next to a vacuum. Only when the claim is wild and outrageous without any science or evidence to back it up, Frost Knight, that's when we would ask for you to prove this outrageous claim
Right, but
that the
you're
Earth is
denying
curving
the airplane
or
flight.
flying through space, as you put it, right? So I only asked you for your foundation. I'm not even attacking you. I'm just saying to you, let's have a look at your foundation of what you believe. And we've actually broke that down, because now you're saying, wow, I don't actually know anyone who's done this, but I'm sure there are people out there who have done this. And I'm sure there are people out there who have seen the Loch Ness Monster. It doesn't change the fact that we can't prove or demonstrate it right now, Frost Knight. Do you agree, disagree?
Well, yeah, so there is a degree of trust that I have, but I think that trust that I have is reasonable.
Justified.
I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not just willy-nilly being like, oh, NASA's, I believe that. Like, I'm actually looked into it. I've looked at many different sources. So it would be a pretty big conspiracy in order to...
Hey, you're jumping the gun here. I haven't doubted you in any way. I haven't called you a liar, a faker, deceiver, none of those things. I've asked you to show me what you've seen. What you have seen to convince you that the Earth is a globe. So far you've said you've heard about a flight from one place to another, but you're not sure if it exists. So we're just looking at the foundation of why you believe what you believe. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I can tell you why I believe... Oh, no, I don't actually believe. I know that water cannot conform around the exterior without a force. Now, I know mass does not attract mass because there are no experiments to show this. Now, I can show you water, what it can and can't do. So, I'm asking you, what is your foundation? My foundation is water. Without the water, we wouldn't be able to go forward from that point forward, you see? Because you couldn't show that water can conform around the exterior without that force.
Right, so I know flat earthers like to
build upon that foundation. Probably you're right, because that would be nonsense. You're right, because if we started to build on that foundation, we would be assuming things that we haven't actually verified. Now, water.
Kimo, are you actually letting him talk, or are you just stepping on him?
Well, water is actually verifiable. So, yeah, I've given you my foundation.
I was about to bring up Cavendish experiment. I was saying I know flat earthers don't like that experiment or whatever, but this is really something that's very simple and easy to do with everyday household objects. You can just get a string, a yardstick, a few weights, and you can test for yourself. And I guarantee you every single time, and no, I haven't done this myself, it doesn't matter, we can all do this. It's simple. Every single time, that weight will be attracted to the other weight. Mass attracts matter.
Frost Knight, how do you guarantee me something you haven't done yourself? What's the guarantee?
I have a firm, based off of my experience of videos I've seen, and I would be willing to bet money on it that it would work. You know?
Yeah, but what's your guarantee? How can you get? So you're just saying we're taking a gamble on this?
It's the thing is it's a.
You should bet money on the shape of this. So we've gone from a strong foundation to, well, I bet, which is 50-50.
You're right. I probably should do it. Some point,
could be either way, Frost Knight, yes?
Even if I did it, you wouldn't necessarily believe that my results, you know what I mean? You still have to test it yourself. That's the point of science, is it's repeatable, it's testable, everyone can do it and figure it out, right?
I think you're missing the point here, Frost Knight. I'm only asking you what you've seen, what you have experienced to know that the Earth is a globe. I'm not doubting you in any way, shape or form. You've been very defensive, but I'm actually being very open to all things that you have to offer. I asked you for your foundation, yes?
I've done experimentation with my own eyes. Everything I've seen has been other videos and things like that. So I can't attest from personal experience and anecdotes that the Earth is in fact a globe, but I believe.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. You see, now that's all we're looking for, is a very simple concession there. Frost Knight, you know, because we've been told that the Earth is a particular shape, particular size, and it's in a particular place. Now, all we're looking for is what you have seen to believe what you have seen. You see, not that difficult.
I'm too lazy to have done these experiments, but there are a number of experiments that are easily accessible to me, to you, to everyone.
I'm sure there are. You know, did you know there was a guy who could set newspaper alight with his bare hands?
So
did you know about that story, Frost Knight?
Have
you ever heard about that Chinese guy? He just put his hands around the newspaper and it just started to combust. Said light. Did you see that video?
I've heard similar stories.
Yeah, there's crazy stories out there. People say all kinds of things. They're wild stories. At the end of the day, we need to know the cause to the effect. Otherwise, we take it as magic, right? Which obviously magic doesn't exist. Magic is not real. Obviously, we know that. So it's just an illusion, right?
Hey, Chemo, you can stop blabbing the entire.
Sorry, forgive me.
Like, if I tell you,
Is falling down. That's probably why monologues. Sorry, Frosco.
I tell you that there's this thing you can do that's really simple, right? And verify whatever position we're arguing over, right? It doesn't matter if I've done it. The point is, and it doesn't matter even if I have done it, because why would you believe me even if I said, yeah, I've done all these? Let's say I could say right now that I am an astronaut and I saw the Earth. That doesn't change the fact that you wouldn't necessarily believe that. So
yeah,
the point is,
you've got no reason to lie. I've got no reason to doubt you. Why on earth would you just start lying? Why would somebody just start lying for no good reason?
Well, Chemo, I showed you experiments real time, and you denied them right then. So I mean,
well, on the other hand, like Moyak likes to tell stories. I wouldn't say that he's lying. He just tells campfire stories, you know.
Except I showed you evidence, and you denied the
Frost, no, I mean, I have no doubt.
And refused to do it yourself. I said you could do it yourself, and you refused.
You have no reason to lie, right? Or do you?
I have no reason to lie, and
you have no reason to lie.
Right. Reason for the I don't see any reason for the experiments that I've seen to have lied, or the flight, the itineraries, and various other things I've seen.
No, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But we'd like to see what you'd seen to verify it. That's all.
You know, you're right. I should plan an experiment and do it myself. That'd be a fun little trip, you know. But also, you know, one thing that another we can do is you take a scale with a weight and you drive north or south, and depending on your latitude, the higher latitude you are, the heavier the weight is going to be. Isn't that interesting? Why? Why does it?
That is interesting. I tell you, I'm probably one of your most friendliest flat earthers you could convince at any time, because I'm willing to beg the questions that there is a force. I'm willing to accept all your experiments if you can only show all the variables have been accounted for, and we can manipulate that independent variable to the cause.
Well, do you have a variable suggested with the weight changing at latitudes?
Well, like I say,
one that you can think of that's not being accounted for?
But there's an interesting thing, the actual weights and measures for gold, there's an adjustment for latitude.
So you'll get a lot further with me if you're willing to go through the actual scientific method and go through the actual variables to eliminate, so we can find out what the actual cause.
No version of the scientific method accounts for all possible variables.
I mean, if you would have a hypothesis, of course, Dark Star, and you would predict the cause to the effect that we are seeing here, right?
Yeah, but you can't control for every variable, including ones you don't know of yet, can you?
If that variable is not controlling it, then why would you account for it?
Yeah, exactly. You can't account for all of them, so you can't have what you just asked them to do.
But you can't make up variables, right?
Right.
You do it all the time.
You need to account for all variables, right?
Right.
But that would obviously include the set of variables that you don't know of yet, because they would be part of the all variables, wouldn't they?
No, you can, like what?
Like anything you don't know of yet.
Like pink unicorns, flying unicorns.
Like if you say that ether exists, right, and we have no evidence for it, you can say, well, you didn't account for ether.
And if you do an experiment and say the ether is the cause, then that is pseudoscience, Darkstar.
What you're asking him to do isn't possible, Chemo.
No, like you've just said it correctly. If someone includes a variable that we can't account for, that is pseudoscience.
No, it's not. Why is it pseudoscience?
Because we can't test for the ether, can we?
You have no evidence to suggest it exists.
So what are you? That's my point. If you can't test for the ether, what are you testing?
Well, whatever you're testing, what's the experiment? That's what you're testing.
Well,
you have a hypothesis.
Whatever you
attempt to falsify it. If you fail to falsify it, it's more plausible than it was before. You never prove it.
No, it's very simple. That's like you observe phenomena.
Can I ask a question?
And the reason you can't prove it is because you can't account for all variables, like you were just saying.
What variables are you talking about? Are you going to make one up, like the ether? I'm not saying the ether doesn't exist, but I'm saying if you're saying the ether, then you have to manipulate the ether and show that is the cause of the effect here, Darkstar.
Yeah, so let's say we're trying to do variables, right? Let's see if this is a fair experiment, right? So let's say temperature, let's say altitude, right? Atmospheric pressure. Let's say, I mean, is there any other variables we can think of that we would want to isolate?
Again, this would be down to, you would see the observed phenomena, and then you would have you would hypothesize your predicted cause. So you can't ask me, what do you think is happening here? You would say, this is what I think is happening, and this is what I'm going to manipulate.
I'm trying to design that we both can agree fulfills the scientific method, and we can agree is the results are valid.
Chemo, if I wanted to run a test on how many seconds are in a minute, do I have to account for refraction and all the other variables, or do I just count 60 seconds?
Well, you don't have an observed phenomena, Chris, so no.
Yeah, what is my observed phenomena?
What is your observed phenomena, sorry?
How long is 1 minute is my observed phenomena? I count 60 seconds. Do I need to have refraction counted in that? Do I have to take into account any other type of variable there could be?
Where did you observe 60 seconds in nature, Chris?
I watch the clock change time. I count to 60 seconds, and it changes time again. So it increased by 1 minute. Do I have to take into account every single type of variable there could be, or is it just 60 seconds?
Take the battery out of the clock, and it won't tick. Clock, Chris.
What? Just answer my question. Do I have to?
Told you the answer. We know the cause, man-made object, man-made device. So we know that you have an effect, time, which you've just made up here, which is 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 60 seconds.
Perfect. I count
and
60 seconds.
How you started this time?
1 minute.
How were you able to start this time? You put the battery into the clock, and this clock started. Yes.
What if the battery is not the cause of the clock moving time?
What are you saying, like a
solar power?
Solar clock.
Yeah, solar clock. Okay. So I count 60 seconds and it moves a minute. Do I need to take into, and it's directly in the sunlight.
But what about at night,
do I need
Chris?
to take into account?
What about at night? How did you do at night, Chris?
Answer the question.
All right, but how did you do at night time?
No, answer the question. Do I need to take into account
the night
refraction?
Yes.
Counting 6 seconds and it changes 1 minute.
No, you need to take into account the night.
Exactly. I don't need every single variable in science to take into account counting 60 seconds for a minute.
Right.
So why are you asking Frost Knight if he accounts for every variable? He doesn't need to account every single variable there could be.
So, Frost Knight, we were very close. You said something along the lines, you're not sure if you're on a globe, you can't verify it yourself. It's a belief you have, you think it's a justified belief, yet we're not able to demonstrate or provide any evidence to support this belief, to make it a justified belief. What say you?
We're both capable of doing these experiments and justifying them.
Sure, that's in the future, but at this moment, here right now, we don't know what the shape of the Earth is, do we?
With 100% certainty, no, but with a high degree of certainty, I do.
Well, that's good enough, and that's where the investigation starts here. So we're going to look for evidence, science, the numbers, mathematics. We need to know the radius. We need to know how big. We need to know where in space, cosmos, universe, the universe, if we're in such a place. Where are we in such a place? How on earth would we go about finding out these things, Frost Knight?
Well, I can tell you how to find the radius. This is pretty simple. There's an app you can get on your phone, and it will use the scope, and it will keep the eye level, accurately displayed on the camera. Okay, and then you go up in altitude. And what's interesting is that on any ball, and you can do this on a basketball, put your eye up to the basketball, you'll notice that the horizon of the basketball drops the higher in altitude your eye is above the basketball. And the same is true, we find, when we go up in altitude on the Earth. We find that the horizon actually drops below eye level at a predictable rate, according to the Al-Biruni's equation with the triangles and whatnot. We can determine the radius.
The horizon? Did you say the horizon, yeah?
Right. Yeah.
The horizon.
Trying to say that the horizon is.
Are you going to repeat everything he says, Chemo, 3 times?
Well, I don't understand what he means by horizon. What is the horizon?
The horizon is the point at which the sky meets the ground or water.
Okay, so that's just the appearance of that, right?
Yeah, so the horizon, there's there's obviously a physical horizon, and then there's the apparent horizon that could depend on refraction and various factors.
There's the physical horizon, there's the apparent horizon, and how many horizons do we see when we go outside?
Well, the point is that light can bend and refract, so we can't really trust our eyes.
Yeah, but you said there's a physical horizon, geometric horizon. Well, where do we see
the horizon as a depiction of a physical place? You know, it's like
I know, but where do we see these 2 horizons that you mentioned?
You look out and you see where the meets the ground.
Yeah, where? Okay, give me an example. Do you have a picture? So you said there's 2 horizons. You've got the physical horizon and the apparent horizon.
Well, the apparent horizon is the horizon that we see, and then what I mean by physical horizon is the physical location which the light emanates from.
So we never see the physical horizon.
Well, there's something called an optical illusion, various forms of refraction, looming refraction that causes light to bend, and so we can't trust our eyes 100% of the time. For example, there's something called Fanta Morgana or something. Or
Morgana.
Yeah, Morgana.
Fata Morgana.
It shows ships flying, right? That obviously that's not true. The ship isn't really. It's a trick of the eye, right? So we can't trust our eyes. We have to, do the best we can with the atmosphere that we have, which bends light. What can you do?
Okay, let us rewind, because you said there are 2 horizons. Are there still 2 horizons?
The horizon is just a.
No, but are there 2 horizons or not?
The horizon is just a visual cue.
A visual cue.
Humans have interpreted as significant. You look out, you see that the air and the water meet at a certain point, and that's the horizon. What do you want?
What do I want? I want the 2 horizons you're saying exist.
The light bends, so what I'm trying to say is that the horizon that we see isn't necessarily indicative of where that physical location is angled.
You're under no pressure, so relax. You said 2 horizons. So I'm just trying to discern or figure out how we have 2 horizons when we only ever see 1.
Well, there's a place that we see that the sky and the water meet, but that place is not necessarily a reality in the way that we see.
Okay, so where is the reality horizon?
Well, it depends on the refraction.
No, I'm asking you where is, not depending on, I'm asking you where is the physical horizon? Where is it?
Well, I mean, the horizon isn't anywhere. The horizon is just light hitting your eyeball in a certain way, but you can swim out to what you're seeing.
Why did you use the word physical?
What I mean is the physical location that is reflecting light into our eye at the horizon, right? There are objects that are there are objects that are near and around the horizon, right?
Objects near and around the horizon.
Hey, Frost, maybe you should redefine the horizon as the apparent line where the sky meets the physical land or the physical water, so he doesn't keep on trying to trick you between physical and apparent horizon.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I might not use all the correct terminology, but
do you see that picture that was posted in the chat there? I don't know if you can see that. The boat looks like it's flying in the air. You see it?
Yeah, and if you notice, there's actually 2 horizons in that photo. There's the one and very visible horizon, and then off in the distance there's like sort of a faint.
There's two horizons in this image.
I think that's a Photoshop image, right?
So the two you're saying that where we see the sharp line, you're saying that's sky below the boat.
Yeah, so that's one horizon, and then you can see a
hold
faint
on, I'm
horizon.
asking you below the boat. Is that sky or water?
Well, it's an optical illusion. We don't really.
Yeah, but is it sky or is it water? Is it physical or is it light?
I think that's a Photoshop picture, you know, mate.
They're being overlapped. It's like
I think it's a Photoshop.
So there's light bouncing off of the sharp water, right, where you can see it clearly, and that's reaching high, and then there's light from behind it that's refracting and superimposing on top of that vision, and so we're getting two inputs of light, overlapping, and that's why you see this effect.
So you would say that is the physical horizon with the sharp edges?
Not necessarily. We can't really precisely pinpoint what based off of what we see because of refraction. The light goes all weird kind of directions, and it's not, when you're at a low altitude, you can't really trust your eyes often.
This is fantastic. So what's the problem then? If we know all of this, if we're armed with this knowledge, none of this is physical. This is just atmospheric light giving us an obstruction. What's the problem when it comes to questions like why can't we see so far? Questions like what's obscuring the bottom of a building? You've just answered it all here. You've just told me everything that we need to know. Because we haven't mentioned anything physical of any nature here, right?
Is that not a Photoshop picture that you're having a discussion about? That's photoshopped, right? That's not a real photo.
It doesn't matter either way because we're looking at the horizon.
The problem, Spurs, is we don't know anything about the photograph.
Why did you post it then?
We don't even know if it is a
Why
photograph.
did you post it then?
It's
to show that point exactly. You look at all these things without the proper information, and you make your assumptions.
Well, that's the point. Can't have any of these images and say because we see a sharp horizon like this, it means that the Earth is dropping from that horizon point.
Things making sense.
Well, we look at other Fanta Morganas, and even if that's photoshopped, we can see it is a real effect that happens like that.
Well, I've never seen that effect in my fucking sad years of living on this poor Earth. I mean, I respect you trying to explain something like that, but I don't think that warrants an explanation. I think that's just photoshopped.
This video.
We don't know that, Brummy.
Let's have a look.
But this is not really helping you, these videos here, Frost Knight, because we're looking for the physical geometric horizon, and all you're showing me here is light being bent or refracted. We're simply seeing turbidity, suspended matter.
He's actually fucking mental.
Yeah.
So,
I've had enough of this. You keep saying geometric horizon, right?
Go ahead,
you keep saying it, right? But that means you're admitting there's a horizon. Horizons only appear on a ball.
Okay. You're right. If you can find that geometric...
I stand corrected, yeah. That's fucking drastic.
Yeah, you'd be right there, Davros. If we could find that geometric horizon, that would mean the Earth is a globe.
Why are we looking for a geometric horizon? We can't see it with the atmosphere, you twat.
So what are you measuring? You're measuring against... You're measuring light. You've been measuring refraction the whole time.
If you're on an object that has no atmosphere, no medium for refraction to occur, then light will accurately depict where it is emanating from, right, or where it's bouncing from. So let's say we're on a flat plane that had no atmosphere and whatever, right? You can trust that the horizon that you see depicts a real physical place with and it will accurately reflect when you go up to it. That's what you're walking up to, right? But with an atmosphere,
you could never. You're absolutely right, Frost. We're definitely on the same page. With this atmosphere,
like Grand Theft Auto when you go out of range.
Rummy, I'm trying to respond here in a second. But you're absolutely right here, Frostlight. Yes. With this atmosphere in the way, we could never discern where the true horizon is. Our measurements will take us as far as thousands and thousands and thousands of miles because we will never ever be able to pinpoint the actual location. Do you agree, disagree?
Yes, but
Disagree with you.
We can predict the horizon using mathematics. Or we can predict,
Oh, I mean, the mathematics like to predict, but practically, physically, we can both agree, because of the atmosphere, we can never ever measure to the physical horizon, right?
Well, stop saying it then.
Well, the higher in altitude you go, the less prominent the effects of refraction are going to be. It's actually most common.
Sure, sounds good.
Because the water is cold and it creates that sort of gradient of temperature.
You're saying if you go higher, you can actually measure the physical horizon.
It becomes a lot more accurate the higher you go.
Okay.
It's not to say it's perfect and without refraction, but that it is more accurate. A lot, it's
why is it more accurate?
Well, because when you're low to the ground, the cold water creates a sort of temperature difference that is very, creates very significant refraction, right? But when you're really high up, there isn't as much of that temperature gradient, and therefore there's much less refraction. Of course, if you're in an atmosphere, there's always going to be some, but pretty much you can trust your eyes when you're up at a very high altitude.
Excellent. So, do we have that then?
Do we have what?
Move the goalpost.
A measurement to the physical horizon at altitude.
We do. I can show you a video of that. Would you like to see?
Sure. Let's have a look.
Just a minute. Let me grab that video.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time. It's always good to ponder one's thoughts as we wait.
There it is.
Okay. This is called How I Destroyed Flat Earth Idiocy, number 5.
Yeah, the title isn't very charitable, but the content is, there's measurements.
Okay, what's the timestamp? Where am I looking at?
Well, there are various points throughout the video where you can see the basically eye level being measured compared to the horizon, which is lower than eye level at various altitudes.
Sure.
And then if you look at 2 minutes and 9 seconds, you'll see the math involved in determining the radius of Earth based off of the horizon.
Oh, let's get this up here then. Look. Oh, okay, so they've got the theodolite there, yes?
The what?
They're using is that a theodolite of some kind?
Theodolite?
Theodolite, I'm not pronouncing it in the right way. Okay, so yeah, I've got the video up here.
They're using an app on the phone.
Oh, that phone? Okay.
It uses the gyroscope to keep a level eye level on the camera, and that way, no matter what altitude you are, eye level remains.
Okay.
Just an altimeter, if you must know.
Is that an altimeter? Okay, very good. So, did he suspend himself in the same location for, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, a day, 2 days?
No, he was in a plane for a few hours.
So he was moving.
Right.
Yes, that's the issue. Yes.
Yes, on a mountain.
That's
if you want to climb up a mountain,
huge problem as well. Huge problem.
Or a building. I mean, you're still going to get you're still going to see the effects on a mountain or a tall skyscraper or something like that.
Oh,
but
do you have a mountain? Oh, fantastic. So we can discard this because we know that the atmosphere is constantly moving, and if he were to stay in the same location, that horizon there would change. It would rise. It would fall. All kinds of things would happen. So if he's moving like this is not really the best way to determine where the horizon is. You understand?
Well, I don't see why, because on a flat Earth, horizon should always meet eye level, and on a ball, the horizon should drop, and it doesn't. The horizon's going to continue to remain in the same position regardless of where you are on the ball or the flat Earth. You know, it's
No. Have you heard of turbidity? Have you heard of turbidity?
Turbidity is another word for hazy.
Be specific. You're talking about atmospheric.
I've not heard of turbidity.
Okay, so let me give you a link.
It's okay. It's haziness.
You're more aware of what you're dealing with and how the atmosphere works at altitude and why you're not getting the results that you're desiring. So just give me a second. Talk amongst yourself, or we can sit in silence for a moment.
Yeah, well, this is him talking about haziness. It's the amount of suspended matter in the atmosphere. He thinks it forms a line just crisp right at the water and hides.
And does the turbidity change depending on the day?
Of course.
Therefore, if we see the same result every single day without fail, that the horizon does in fact fall below eye level at the predicted value, then that shows that turbidity is not a variable that affects this particular.
Okay, so I found the link now. I'm going to give you the link so you have a better understanding of what needs to be done to show that horizon is in its location and in the place where you say it is. So check that out. I'll play it here and explain what we're looking at as we go through it. So yeah, when you're at altitude and you're looking at the horizon there, what you think is a physical horizon, which we can't explain, is not. Because of suspended matter, this will give you the illusion of a physical horizon. And if you were to suspend yourself in that position, as we can see here, the horizon there would change. It would go above the eye level, below the eye level, and remain the same depending on where you are around the world. So let's take a look at that again. We can see that from altitude, got the. I'm giving you the timestamp so you can check. So you see what I'm looking. I'm looking at 1 minute 19 seconds. 1 minute 19 seconds in this video. This is from altitude. We can see where the we can see where the horizon changes due to suspended matter, giving us no accurate readings or measurements at all with these devices when it comes to the horizon there. So have a look at that. Familiar yourself with turbidity, and you'll be able to see that the
But if you go out on a day without turbidity,
there is never
or
a day
minimal
without
turbidity.
There is always turbidity. There is always suspended matter. So frostbite.
Yes, what about a day with minimal turbidity?
So frostbite. We're looking at the foundations for the globe therein, and we've been able to pretty much dismantle your foundation. You said something about flight times or flights going across from one point to another. You also said the horizon just below eye level, when in fact if we were to actually test that, we can find the horizon go above eye level, below eye level, and at eye level. So where do we go from here, Frost Knight, if there is no foundation?
Well, here's the thing. You can cast doubt on the various evidences and measurements that I've put forth, but doubt could also be cast on flat Earth measurements, right? That's not that's not saying that either side has stronger evidence.
Absolutely. But the most important thing, I think, I'm sure you can agree, is being lied to about where we live. Now, if there's no evidence, and I've just provided you sufficient evidence to support my foundation. My foundation is that the horizon goes on and on, it constantly changes. I provide you evidence with that. We can go forward with that argument, because we can now say, here, how do you go forward once we provide evidence to show you don't have a physical horizon? You need that physical horizon, yes.
From my understanding of turbidity, it would not be a variable that significantly affects at high altitude the ability to accurately determine the curvature of the Earth based off of the horizon.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, that is a fair shout. But you would have to show at altitude. You would say, "Look, I've been up there, and I can see that when I've suspended myself, the horizon stays in place. Day 1, day 2, day 3, and obviously always." You see, but we can't find that. We can't find a horizon that stays in one place.
Or you have to find out the conditions that cause it to move.
So at Frost Night, we can't find the horizon or any horizon that stays in one place. So if it doesn't stay in one place, we can't make any measurements.
Well, it will stay in almost the exact place.
Probably. No, it would never. That's not true. Again, it would never ever stay in the same location. Depending on the weather, will be the cause. Depending on the temperature, as you outlined.
At a high enough altitude, the difference caused by either turbidity or refraction should be so minuscule that it's undetectable to the human eye.
That's never happened. When have you ever seen an observation where the camera was suspended in the sky in one place and was located locked onto the horizon, where the horizon was consistently in one place? Where have you seen this, Frost Night?
Well, there are high-rise condominiums that people live in, and they can look out on the ocean front.
Fantastic. Let's have a look.
Okay. I'm not aware of any like 24/7 live streams from a high-rise vantage point.
Why did you mention it then?
Well, I would assume that being an easy enough observation to make.
Why would you assume when you were being pressed about your foundation?
Well, I don't have the means to test all of these things, but I would say it's a pretty my assumption, I think, is I would put a lot of what's the word? I would bet on it. You know what I mean?
Bet on it. I wouldn't know what you mean. I don't. But again, if it's your belief, I can't attack anyone for their religious beliefs, their ideologies. If that's what you believe, hold it true, hold it dear. But the most important thing is that you cannot demonstrate that to anyone, anywhere, anytime, neither can anybody else. So that's why the flat earthers, I say, well, this is why we like to defend the truth. Because if the globe is not the truth, then we need to expose that lie. Right? Frost Night, do you agree, disagree?
Well, there's with beliefs, you have a varying level of certainty, right? So your belief, you have a belief in a flat Earth. You do not know for a fact that we're on a flat Earth, right? Would you agree?
I would agree that children have a certain level of certainty that Santa Claus exists. Does it make it justifiable?
Kimo, just answer the question.
He asked you a question. Why don't you answer his question?
Answer the question.
Okay, I do apologize. Do you want to repeat your question?
You have
my question: are you 100% certain that we're on a flat Earth, or is there some degree of belief that could potentially you could be wrong?
No, there's no way it cannot be a flat stationary plane. It's 100% flat. There's no curvature going up or down, concave, convex, any kind of curvature measurable. Water can only be flat at rest, flat and level, horizontal. We know that there was so there was no doubt that the Earth is not a flat plane. Now, obviously, if you were to show otherwise, that we have measurable curvature.
Are you 100% certain that Santa Claus does not exist and that he does not bring presents to good children on Christmas morning?
Am I 100% on that?
Yeah, are you 100% certain that Santa doesn't exist?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm not 100% certain that Santa exists. I'm curious, how can you be so certain when there's so many untested variables? You haven't looked at every single place in the universe to determine if water can ever curve, right? You don't know that for 100% certain. That's something that you've assumed based off of experience and what you've heard from science or whatever sources, you don't know that for 100% certain, right?
Right, I didn't know that. I used to think water could curve. I once believed that it could conform to the exterior, but when you test these things scientifically...
Have you ever gone out to space and looked at Earth for yourself to know that it's flat and not curved? You have not confirmed that, so you cannot know without.
I've been into the sky.
You haven't. You
Show me
can't
the
know
timestamp where you tested water not curving on a ball.
I've been into the sky. Space, as you describe, is not a place that exists, Brummy. Yes?
Kimo, have you tried covering a ball with water?
So we can only go into the sky, Brummy, because space is...
Kimo, have you tested a ball not holding water on it?
You haven't been into space, have you? Unless you've been into space, you can't say that.
Yeah, but you're begging the question here. Space, what is this place?
Absolute certainty, but you
what
can't
is
verify
space, Brummy? Let's not sidetrack.
You cannot verify.
You've been absolutely
you can't
fantastic,
verify.
very honest in your endeavour here.
It's a belief. It can't be 100% certain because it's a belief. Like they're soundly telling you, you cannot verify it. If you verified the Earth from space to know that it's a plane, you haven't.
No, I don't need to do that.
Oh,
I have a very strong belief and assumption that Santa Claus does not exist, but I leave open the possibility that maybe somewhere there's this guy named Santa Claus and he has magical gear and he brings people presents. I don't know.
And like I said, I'm not going to attack anyone for their beliefs. Children can believe whatever they like. People can believe whatever they like. When they try to teach it as fact, when they try to teach those as fact, that's when the problem arises. And that's where we step in, obviously, and try to highlight the lies that are out there and try to bring as much truth as we can.
You've just made a claim that it's a fact, but you can't prove it.
Prove what?
Your belief. You said you don't believe that it's flat. You know with absolute certainty. So you're making a claim. You're making a claim that you can't prove. You're making a claim that it's a flat, motionless. Your claim is that it's a flat, motionless plane.
That's the same as everyone else's claim.
It's not a claim. It's an observation.
You say you see flat. You said that you see it's right. I do see flat.
But you can't prove it. You can't go outside of space and prove it.
Everyone observes flat. Nobody sees curvature. Right?
I observe curvatures too.
Well, show me where you see a curvature.
Soundly's pictures of the bridge. And the sun setting. Things going over the horizon. These are all things that I see that indicate to me that it's curved. Looks curved to me.
Yeah, you think that what you see with that long range observation is actually happening, but we know that's not.
Well, you could do it shorter range with the transit and measure it, and you can actually find out it's 8 inches at 1 mile at a nice distance without any refraction to speak of. You can measure it.
Point is, you can't. What is it? You can't prove a negative, right? So, you can't test every possibility ever in the whole universe, right? You can't say that something is for certain, right? Unless you can go up and look yourself, right? So, none of us have gone to the altitude that would determine whether or not it's curved or flat. And even if we had, you could claim there's some sort of weird lensing effect that makes it look like a sphere, but it's really actually flat. I mean, there's so many possibilities that you'd have to account for. You can only have a high degree of certainty that something is true.
So you're saying, sorry, Jeremy, you're saying that there's a possibility Santa Claus may exist. 1%.
There's a
slight chance that he could exist. Yeah?
Unless you can venture the entire
Hold
universe.
on, Brummy. I'm asking Frost Knight. You're saying, Frost Knight, there's a sliver, a glimmer, a chance that Santa Claus may exist.
It is ever so slight. It's called a non-zero chance, right? It's just slightly above.
Okay, over to you, Jeremy.
They were saying that you can't search every inch of the universe to clarify that it doesn't exist. And is that not Soundly that's talking? You keep calling him Flaky?
No.
Sounds just like Soundly. But yeah, what we've talked. Yeah, the fact is you can't go out to the universe and check every nook and cranny behind every star and behind the moon that Santa Claus isn't real. So you do have some level of belief that the Earth.
Have you ever been to everybody's house and seen whether he doesn't come that night to deliver the presents?
Well, it's a fallacy called like proving the non-existent. Like if somebody makes a claim that Santa exists, yeah.
Like Jesus.
Yes, but there's a non-existent. Nobody proves the flat Earth. They refuse to. So I mean, we're stuck with the same thing. All they do is deny.
I mean, the globe evidence really isn't that strong, Moya.
It's powerful as all motherfucker, man. 8 inches every mile that you go away, or there's an 8-inch drop over water in every direction. Kind of indicates to you that the Earth is curving.
Yeah, but where's that actual physical measurement, though? You like
who gives a shit? You don't need it.
What do you mean?
It's stupid to request it. It's moronic, idiotic. That's why you asked.
It would put this whole thing to bed.
No, it wouldn't. You would just come up with some other reason.
You show water curving, it's over for a majority of the,
nope.
of the flat earthers. I'm telling you.
No, everything they've ever wanted has been given to them up until a point, and then they immediately go and say, well, that's not true because
I mean, if the evidence was that good, you wouldn't really have flat earthers.
550 people have been up, 536 people, maybe 540 now, have taken a ride to the ISS, been there and looked at it personally.
Out of what?
You deny every single one of them.
Hey, if space was, if there was commercial travel in space, you could go up there. The average Joe could go up there.
You wouldn't be able to afford it, so you'd say it was only the elite can do it, so it's the lizard people.
That's what I'm saying. If this was affordable to the average, you know, if it would still be expensive, but it was affordable.
It would be too expensive for you no matter what price it was. If it was $100, you couldn't come up with.
Come on.
Purchase a Qantas flight from Santiago to Sydney, and then you can see for yourself.
Go to the South Pole. Go from Australia to the South Pole and look at the 24-hour sun. Then try and reason out how the Earth is a sphere or how it's flat.
That wouldn't really prove it though, because you're.
Oh, sure as shit would.
You're going on an assumption that you know how the sky works, what it is.
Well, then your reason for why the sun sets falls apart, because the sun at some point is going to be on the opposite side of the Earth from you on a pizza planet, and you're going to say, "Oh my God, it's now further away from me than when it normally sets." Why is it still?
Isn't that the restaurant from Toy Story, Pizza Planet?
Yes.
Dude, that's awesome. I like that.
That's one of those long-range observations that shit might not be as it appears.
Yeah, we you know, there's an excuse for everything. So the question is, at some point, you're just going to have to trust the evidence one way or the other. You know, either lasers go across the lake due to refraction, or we're on a extremely large ball, or we're on a flat Earth. I mean, you know, you have to judge the evidence and all the evidence for yourself. You know.
The simple geometry of the Earth is borne out by the fact that the coordinate system, latitude and longitude, only works accurately on a sphere. And latitude and longitude accurately depicts every point on the face of the Earth.
Problem is, globe earthers have very clear-cut and cohesive reasons for things, whereas flat earthers just kind of assume, maybe it's electrostatic, or maybe there's some sort of lens, or maybe there's a giant black invisible star that eclipses the moon or that we can't detect. You know, it's like, where is the tangible argument?
Tangible argument comes from you have no foundation. You have no starting point. Where do we begin with your globe? Everything that you've said tonight concerning your foundation, we've debunked, and you said, well, you know, don't really know if it's a globe, then I just believe it. So you're going back and forth, which is natural, because you've just lost something, and now you're trying to bargain with yourself. But you need a foundation. You need a foundation. Now, if you want a starting point for flat Earth, your foundation would be water. Water cannot conform around the exterior of an object without a force. If you have
but
a
it seems to
force,
bend and ships hide behind it.
if
So
you have a
there we go.
force, then obviously that would be a foundational point, right? Of why
You got a force.
Why mass attracts mass. But you don't have this. We know gravity is not
It's
a force.
demonstrable. You've seen it, Chemo.
And we
Why do
know
you
that
deny
mass
it?
does not attract mass. So when I
No,
ask
you do not know that.
when you say,
Show me the evidence. Show me
when
the
you say
proof that it
things
does
you're
not
saying
attract
here,
mass.
Frost,
No.
you simply are
Chemo,
looking
show
for
me the proof.
foundation of either
Timestamp
side.
where mass doesn't attract mass.
Everything that you've built above that, the mathematics, the science you think you have, beyond what you say you have, the foundation is flawed from the get-go.
Chemo, show us the math. Show us the example where Cavendish doesn't work.
Cavendish doesn't work. Why would you assume it
Show
would
us.
work?
Cavendish.
No, we've seen it.
Every single time it works. The only problem is it's difficult to derive the gravitational constant, but it always mass attracts mass with the Cavendish experiment.
What you've done?
Getting it accurate enough to measure the constant is one thing. To just prove the fact that mass attracts mass, it's a wonderful experiment.
Have you done it in a vacuum?
Irrelevant.
You can get a vacuum chamber and put a Cavendish experiment in there.
Excellent.
Yeah, but he's going to ask you for a timestamp. We've shown you the papers that were done on it, Keith.
Frost Knight, have you seen Cavendish in a vacuum?
I personally haven't, but I have a high degree of certainty that it would in fact work. I would be willing to bet on it.
I've seen one isolated in a chamber that could have no convection currents in it that was strong enough to make those weights accelerate like that.
Thing is, it would work more efficiently because there'd be less resistance because air is part of that would resist them from attracting. So in a vacuum, it'd actually be more efficient.
Well, he's contending that the wind is blowing it.
Well,
the thing that argues against that is the fact that as you reverse the test, any prevailing wind would go away because the test reverses as many times as you reverse.
You can get a vacuum chamber for pretty cheap. They're not like super expensive, right? You just go on eBay and get pump.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Yeah, but to do one big enough to make a nice Cavendish experiment without super precision equipment would be a challenge in a home built vacuum chamber.
Even with some like minor lead weights, I mean, you're still going to get some movement. It's eventually going to reach.
Thing is, they don't accept the Cavendish anyway. So regardless of whether you have it in a vacuum, it's not going to make it. They're not going to start accepting it. Well, it's just going to move the goalposts. That's all you guys do. Move
how can we not? What's the variable?
Name me one experiment that you haven't refuted. That
you would have flat earthers making up variables if you saw this in a vacuum chamber. So that would be a win on your side because we would have to say, oh wow, it has to be a flying pink fairy that makes it move.
Well, that's what you did, Chemo, with the requiring the vacuum.
Chemo,
we know right now,
there is no way for a prevailing wind to make that object move in the manner that it moves, and you just asserted that a vacuum is required when it's not.
Name me one experiment that you do accept that's in favour of the globe. Just one.
There's none that have passed
that's
the scientific...
That's what I'm saying. You don't accept experiments, so if
not
it's
about
up there,
accepting
right,
them.
It's
not about not accepting them. It's the fact they haven't passed the scientific method. That's all.
Okay. So you have no.
Put them through the scientific method, and then obviously you'll get the conclusion and the answer. You guys decide, right? We're going to make up this. We're going to add this. We're going to leave out that. We're going to do this. Just to comport to your reality.
Chemo, you just asserted that the vacuum was required. I want to know how you came to that conclusion.
Because that would eliminate.
Can you tell me how much wind would be required to make that weight move at that speed? It's something you could calculate.
Yeah, that would eliminate the energy, the molecules from bouncing around that you believe.
Right. But we know how much wind forces things to move, so we could actually come up with an amount of wind that would be required, and now you can eliminate that that's not happening. So
for a factor, it would equally push it in both directions, right? Like it would sometimes it would go left, sometimes it would go right, but every single time you do the Cavendish experiment, it always goes in the direction of the mass that you're placing in front of it, right? So every single time.
Even when you reverse it.
How do you know it's not the magnetic poles that are moving it? Like, do you know what I mean? You'd have. That's what you'd say. Oh, the magnetic poles of the Earth. You know, all the.
Well, I can show you that magnetism doesn't affect it.
I'm just trying to be a flat earther now. What was thinking of something else? Once you take away the air.
But just wrap it up, Frost Knight. The foundation. We don't have anything to build on, do we? Right now, you're going to do an experiment. You say you're going to do a test. You're going to provide something in the future. But right now,
we'll build on the same foundation that they
right
did
now
when
we
they
don't
built
have
the globe.
Something. We don't have a basis to build upon, do we, Frost Knight? Apart from what is going to be in the future.
You can factor out the wind anyway. Like someone just said, you can factor out the wind anyway. You can prove that it's not the wind without taking the wind out. You can prove it's not the wind without taking the wind out of it. So what is your next assumption of why it causes that effect? It's just mass attracting mass. You know what I mean? You know.
Chemo, what's your foundation for a giant, undetectable, invisible ball that casts a shadow on the moon? What's your foundation for that?
For the what side? The shadows on the moon?
The Salinella
phases and eclipses.
We spoke about this last night. Well, Lemon's here. He can bring you more knowledge on this.
Here we go.
The Salinellian eclipse.
The words lemon and more knowledge should not be used in the same sentence.
The Salinellian eclipse proves that the Earth can't be doing the eclipsing.
Nope, doesn't. We have
Moyak, not now. I can moderate now. I'm not involved, so let Lemon speak, Moyak.
Okay, shut up, Chemo.
Take your own advice, Moyak.
Weak excuse, I'm out.
Okay, good. Salinellian eclipse is explained perfectly by the fact that refraction exists and it moves things by about 1/2 degree. No problem.
But, that's weak. What about the fact that the shadow falls in the wrong place for the Salinellian eclipse? It should be coming from the bottom up, not the top down, if the moon is descending into the Earth's shadow.
Have you done that in a 3D modeling program?
3D modeling? What does that have to do with real life? Modeling programs are based off of software geeks with a globe assumption. That doesn't mean that.
Okay, have you modeled it?
Okay, now hold on a second. Moyak, I don't know what you're doing here. You've just derailed. You're here every single day, Moyak, day in, day out. Jack, not Jack.
Yeah, Chemo, you're here every day, and you fucking monopolize him for the past hour.
Frost Knight asked a question about the
and
moon,
you've been monopolizing the conversation for the past hour.
Lemon would like to respond to that, and I'm sure that
hours.
Jack. I don't know why I say Jack Frost. I've got Jack Frost on my mind. Frost Knight. But the idea is that Lemon was going to give a response to Frost, and Frost obviously will give a response back to Lemon.
Chemo. Why are you trying to run the conversation? Let people
because we're trying to find a bit of order here.
Chemo. Let people talk how they want to talk. Stop trying to run the conversation.
So, Frost, you were asking about the moon.
Chemo, I'm going to ask you again. Stop it. Let the people in the room want to talk how they want to talk. And shut the fuck up.
Right. So
I actually agree with Branch for once.
Refraction is the way that it's modeled doesn't really go with the way light actually behaves. It's assumed to travel in a straight line, despite the fact that light doesn't always seem to travel like a straight line string. Sometimes you have different ways that light can travel or refract based off of the medium that don't quite go with that sort of notion. Case in point, you can point to an object and, use your fingers to kind of go around the object. But if I'm to the side looking at you, I'm just going to see you holding your hands off into space. And I'm going to have, my hands around the object, trying to encapsulate it with my point of view. That's going to be totally different than yours. So light doesn't seem to travel like this laser that you could wrap your fingers around to basically say, this is the light ray right here that I'm, covering with my hand. We still don't really know how sensation and perception really, go together with light. We have a couple ideas, but we really don't understand the whole ins and outs of, how light travels and how our eye perceives it anyway.
Okay. Frost.
Yeah. You're right, Lemon.
That the Salinellian.
Lemon. That was a great fucking point, Lemon. Thank you.
Who unmuted?
So your notion of how light refracts with the Salinellian eclipse is a little specious.
We're all over the place now. So Frost, did you hear what Lemon just said?
Lemon. I would love if you continued just for a little bit.
Frost, did you hear what Lemon said?
No, he's got a valid point. I heard it.
Frost, did you hear what Lemon just said? Yeah.
to be honest,
Chemo got away with answering the question, and Lemon Bird, explained it better for him.
Yeah, but did Frost hear Lemon's answer? That was the key here.
I had a lapse in attention span. Can you reiterate his argument?
Okay, Lemon, just say that bit again.
Light doesn't travel like a string. If you're looking at a person who's, say, trying to put their hands around the moon, they'll put their hands around the moon based off of their point of view, okay, fine. But somebody off to the side will just be looking at them and looking at them like, they're putting their hands around nothing, because, if that the person to the side tried to do the same thing from their point of view, they would do it slightly differently, showing you how light travels differently for each observer and doesn't appear to be this string that just matches 100% for all observers. So your notion of refraction is just off. That light is these strings that just travel and bend. It's just off. It's observer specific and highly subjective. We really don't know what light is doing anyway. We have ideas, but we don't really know what's going on.
Nothing you just said makes any sense.
And that is the very definition of what word salad is. Words strung together that have no coherent thought.
The summary, I tried to go through it mentally with you, but you can't imagine it.
Complete bullshit.
So your notion of refraction is off. It has no basis.
Light doesn't travel like strings.
That's a different thing of light than I am.
The opening line was light doesn't travel like strings. That's all I had. Light doesn't travel like strings.
What you said is true.
Right, okay, so
light doesn't travel like strings.
Refraction
where's the light string? Where's the light string? Where is it?
Lemon.
Where is your fixed light that's refracting in this fashion?
The only thing that's contemplating your acknowledgement of this fucking conversation is refraction. Can you please explain to us refraction?
The refraction is based off of a highly theoretical notion that doesn't match reality. That's the thing. Highly theoretical math, metaphysics, and theoretical notions. That is all. No matching to reality in some cases.
I want the deep.
Lemon can't even solve a right angle triangle, let alone
I want to
anything else.
really understand about that shit, because
that's based off of optical geometry.
They keep telling me it's all about refraction. And I want to know why refraction doesn't prove the globe.
Because you can have refraction over a flat plane with totally different notions as your basis. It's just all theoretical notions.
Is it really?
So we have this.
What you said is all theoretical notion, we can dismiss it just as easily as what you did, because you have no proof of what you just said.
Just like the globe was dismissed because it doesn't match the flat horizon that we see and the lack of motion that we feel with our feet and our senses.
Lemon, where's your flat Earth model?
No, Lemon.
There's a couple flat Earth.
Please let Lemon